Welcome back to the channel. I've got some of my favorite human beings on the planet here. Don't expect this to be the cleanest G-rated video when you got these guys here. It's pretty raunchy, so if that's not for you, click off. But we are gonna be running you guys through 3 unique exercise variants. You may have seen me do them before, may not have. But what will be interesting is to see what these very, very handsome experts, Dr. Mike Israetel and Jared Feather, think of my movement patterns, whether it's efficacious or complete quackery. So without further ado, let's get it. Okay, so what we're starting with is one that I get a ton of comments on my channel because it looks crazy. It looks like I'm gonna rip my shoulders out of the sockets, but essentially what we have here is a dumbbell fly, but we're going to be using the decline bench here. And the reason for that is essentially so we can actually clear more space to open up, scapular retract, and from a mechanics perspective, it's gonna allow us to drive a tremendous amount of force with less weight than a traditional, let's say, flat or incline dumbbell fly, because just based on mechanical leverage, the farther we get away from that axis of rotation in this movement pattern, we're gonna get an immense stretch, which we know is extremely hypertrophic, but also allow us to drive just as much stimulus with less weight. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do this. So the first thing we wanna do is actually set this at not a severe decline. So we don't wanna be like with this thing at like, you know, all the way like at a 45-degree negative. We wanna be at about, I usually say about 20 to 30 degrees on a negative decline here. So it's just enough so that when we arch our back, you'll see I am able to get a tremendous amount of stretch comfortably, as opposed to incline bench where I stop here and then it gives me very little room. Whereas on the decline, I can now reach back. It looks crazy, but it's going to give you guys an immense amount of stimulus. So I'm gonna grab, I would definitely go lighter than what you normally would do a traditional fly with. Initially what I would do is start scooting my butt up the bench. And what that's gonna do is push me into this kind of very huge back arch, and it's gonna drive my shoulders down. The other thing I'm gonna do is put the dumbbells at about a 45-degree angle. So I'm not here, and then I'm gonna drive the shoulders down and back. What I wanna do is start out in a traditional fly pattern, and once I get to a place that the stretch is comfortable, which for me is pretty far back, I'm then gonna reach back, and what this is doing is creating, even pushing that lever arm back, I'm now creating an immense amount of stretch. And if you see, there's still, everything's in my chest. I have no tension in my front delt. It's because the unique angle of the decline fly, I'm gonna push forward and then I'm gonna drive up through my chest. So it's almost a traditional fly pattern with an external stretch rotation here, pushing more emphasis into that pec minor, but then also stretching all the way through that mid upper chest. So traditionally speaking, you would think decline means, let's say, lower chest, but I'm not here. You can see how much stretch, even on camera, watch in my upper chest, how much stretch I get through here. And so from a physics perspective, the farther we get from here, there's very little tension on our chest. As we come out farther away from that axis of rotation, that 44 pounds now is probably exerting what would be maybe like 60, 70, 80 pounds in terms of actual force necessitated to drive out of the bottom of that rep. And as we know, the amount of force placed on the tissue in the stretch position is extremely hypertrophic. So this has now become very comfortable for me, which gets me to my last point of tissue health over time. One goal of hypertrophy training, obviously, is to build muscle, but the reason I like this a lot, outside of just the hypertrophic benefits, you can see how much stretch I'm getting in that movement. And over time, I built that more and more and more every single time I've done it. So now I have no shoulder pain and that tissue is lengthened under load. So I stay healthier. I don't have any joint pain. I don't have to worry about wrapping my fucking elbows, my wrist, because I'm trying to bench 500 pounds. I'm focusing on exertion in the target tissue and not how much weight I'm lifting.
So guys, a couple of my observations on Eric's technique. First of all, the combination of a fly with a bit of a pullover motion is that extra special sweet touch on that whole pec. the amount of muscle growth this is leveraged to provide is just fucking wild. So start with like 1 or 2 sets of this pretty light, and your pecs are gonna get fucked up. Over time, they'll get used to it more. You can add more sets. Do not do 5 sets of this in your first workout. You're not gonna be able to brush your teeth. Another thing, and this is to Eric's point, he said that he uses this exercise pretty regularly. The thing is, every time Eric demonstrates something, I know for a fact he's actually using it in the gym. There are bodybuilders will demonstrate shit, and you're like, shut the fuck up, you junior league science there, motherfucker. You never do this shit. You built your body with completely different shit. I've worked out with Eric. He actually uses this stuff. And guess what? He's not broken in half. The huge, huge deal here is this. Your body is resilient. And if you put it into uncomfortable, difficult, fucked up looking positions, it will become more resilient over time, as long as you don't use a crazy amount of tension right away. You don't jerk and heave like a psychotic animal. Be like Eric. Start light, go slow, pause, get that extreme range of motion. Over time, you're gonna get bigger and stronger. It's gonna make you much more injury proof. If you think there are exercises in the gym that are inherently injurious just by design, you're gonna have to go up against almost all biomechanists and physiologists and anatomists that will tell you that is not a thing. So be brave about the gym. Don't be commenting on motherfucking profile being like, oh, you're gonna fuck your shit up. Shut the fuck up, pussy. Your shit is fucked up to begin with because you've been bitch-assing yourself in the gym doing easy shit. You wanna look like Eric? Challenge yourself, motherfucker. Beep. I fucking canceled myself.
80, 90, 50,000 pounds of force into your pecs. I'm bad at math, so I didn't understand any of that shit.
He never was not a math guy.
I didn't really get all that shit. But the biggest takeaway with this stuff, especially just seeing how big this guy is and seeing that he's using 44 pounds. This is 44 pounds, by the way.
For a demo.
For a demo. But honestly, this is probably like close to working load.
I think like top working set, which I can probably demonstrate if you guys want, because I did do chest, it'd be about 55.
Right, 55 pounds.
Max,
yeah.
And that's...
On a movement like this, don't be going into the gym thinking you're doing the same loads as Eric. But big thing that me and Mike always get from a lot of people, we even just had it today, people using the app, people using the demonstration videos to go through that 4 range of motion, is the joint health aspect of everything. Like he said, your tissue is very adaptable. So when you get into these crazy extreme ranges of motions in these types of positions, it might look really weird. You see his shoulders basically out this way. That's probably something you would hear 90% of educators and influencers out there say, oh, that's a terrible position for your shoulder. Yeah, educators, exactly.
Eric, what are you doing? Haven't you heard the educators?
Have you heard the educators in the sphere? It really is something that is going to make your joints feel better long term. Like you said, I haven't wrapped my wrists or my elbows or any of that shit my entire training career, because I've basically trained this way since Mike was my professor. God, what was that, 10 years ago? Keep that in mind. Where this looks weird, it looks like you're in a really dangerous position for your pecs or your biceps or whatever it may be. Give it a shot. Start really light. Don't start with the weights that Eric's using. He's fucking gigantic. He's like 300 pounds of muscle.
You will probably never get to the weights Eric
100%. So I like the exercise, especially from that perspective. I think it's awesome. I might even try it out in my program.
So I know we did movements, but this is gonna be a little bonus hack you guys can use. You guys have probably seen me, if you watch any of my content, use what's called a yoga block. Essentially what this is gonna do for me on whenever I use it is just add that 3 extra inches, and God do I need it, 3 extra inches to every movement that we do. And so for this one, we're gonna do it planted on the back pad. So for example, this machine doesn't have terrible range of motion, like this isn't bad, right? Push the chest open, you see I have nice, a little bit like a decent amount of stretch here. If you have a gym partner, it's nice, but I usually will just find it, make sure it's centered.
Where on your back is it going?
I like it right between the shoulder blades.
Okay.
So that feels pretty good right there. But you can see here now.
Looks like your shoulder blades are sunk way back.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull the shoulder blades, and you see how much stretch I get in my chest. And then when I drive through, find that comfortable position, pop the chest open, pull the shoulders back, reach, and now you see the difference in that range of motion. I'm still not touching down, still attention, that stretch position, drive out. So now, like we talked about levers, physics, the farther I go back, the more exertion is needed to get out of that deepest position, just because the angles of my joints are now decreased, especially the elbow, and my shoulder, the angle is opening more, so my stretch is greater, and now it's going to be harder for me to get out of that deepest position. And also we know, hypertrophically speaking, force in that stretch position is very, very efficacious.
Motherfucker's a scientist. Also looks like it hits your triceps a ton too.
I try not to, but essentially, especially when you get to that middle position,
Sure.
inevitably any pressing movement, it's going to be an ancillary mover, so you're going to have some. It's pretty much an impossibility unless you're doing a fly to completely eradicate it. But any type of press, I just try to minimize it.
Sure. Well, this is a fucking awesome suggestion. I will say, like,
Do you want to give it a try, like lighter weight?
Sure. For folks who are looking at this and going, yeah, but it's a deep stretch anyway, you're totally right. The thing is, new tech makes amazing equipment. Not everyone buys new tech. No. And so in your own gym, you might be in a situation where the machine press ends like here, and you're like, I think I need to be 8 feet wide for this to work, or 9 feet thick or whatever. But if you have a pad behind you like this, then all of a sudden, you can turn a lot of machines into a super stretch, super range of motion. It absolutely makes a difference. It makes a big difference in growth. You'll know this because you'll get way more sore and pumped and everything. So you have one of these in your gym bag, along with ball gag, handcuffs, and gimp mask, and you're well on your way.
100%.
And every commercial gym has foam rollers for the most part.
Foam rollers, yeah, or these yoga blocks on Amazon are like $9. So the good thing about a yoga block too, it provides enough cushion that you don't feel like you're like pressing into, like, let's say a piece of plastic, but it's not so squishy that you start to compress it.
Eric, is it true to say that this is literally provides cushion for the push-in?
It does provide so much cushion for the push-in. So now you're not even like 3 or 4 inches away from the stack. So it's nice, you don't even have to worry about that. Because I know for me, biggest pet peeve is when I get back to the stretch and I feel it touch the stack. I'm like, ugh.
I love how it also cues your chest to go up a ton.
It cues you back, yeah.
Do you guys like to keep your shoulders back at the top, or do you guys like to keep them back at the bottom and at the top protract?
I find it more important to scapular retract in the most stretch position, and I find it less beneficial to be here, because I find I can actually drive a little more peak contraction here, and then as I come back in that eccentric, then I really open it up. But then I can still drive here, and you still see a little bit of that front delt exposed.
Sure.
Just because I feel like if you seize too far back, you lose a little bit of that potential to really like finish the rep.
Yeah. Jared, you like to stay open.
I like to stay open. Yeah, 100%. I like to keep it retracted and depressed scapula the entire time. I think you actually can just get better at that peak contraction portion if you do it a lot. And I'm not a fan of the shoulder moving freely. It literally puts more front delt and tricep involvement into the exercise by movement pattern. That's exactly what it does.
I like it because I would like take more front delt and tricep training in my chest training if I could get it.
And then also, since the eccentric's the most important part, it isn't a terrible thing. If you're trying to complete the reps and actually get to that peak contraction, it is way fucking harder to do it like this. But I'm not ruling out peak contractions probably ever. And now that we have data to support the fact that there's equal hypertrophy between the two, lengthened partials and full range of motion, with a controlled eccentric and using the lengthened position actually, yeah, for sure. I think especially from an injury prevention perspective, because we are talking about that a lot with these extreme ranges of motion, eliminating an entire contraction in your exercises is probably stupid. You slip on some ice and your quad goes into a full, hard, concentric phase. Good luck if you've not been in that position in the last 6 months.
You probably want to do the whole range of motion.
Yeah, good luck.
But the most important thing I have to contribute about the conversation is this. Scott, please zoom out for you as well.
You're gonna ram that into the, okay. Yep.
That's how my dick fell off. And yes, my dick is thick and black. Thank you for tuning into the channel.
Sensational.
Sensational. You get older like me, you start wondering, what have you made in this life for yourself? No, sorry, they came. You get a little older, and you've accumulated a lot of stories of people giving you gym lore. Now, gym lore doesn't exist like it used to back before social media and cameras everywhere. But you know, you hear shit like, oh, like one guy used to do bench 800 for reps. And you're like, okay, shut up, Frank. You're just losing your mind again. This is one of these legit moments where I have to share some gym lore with you, which you've actually seen on camera. Eric Janicki has done a whole chest workout before we even got here. And then he's that guy that can demonstrate a technique and talk through it with more than what everyone else is doing. He was doing this with the full stack. That's just what he was doing. How is that possible? But motherfuckers just won't believe me when I tell them, like, dude, Eric Janicki will demonstrate a technique with more weight than everyone in the gym can lift. You're like, man, shut the fuck up. Normally, I'd be one of those people. It's a like absolute like telltale sign of a liar. You're like, bullshit. There's no one out there that can do the whole stack and talk through it. Eric Janicki can. But then when you see him in real life, you're like, I guess that makes sense because he's enormous. I guess the point of the story is sometimes it's okay to believe that heroes exist.
That's sick.
Seriously, legit, like, that's real. Like, I would have never believed, somebody would have, dude, Eric Janicki, we did a video with him, he was demoing, like, the whole stack and talking through it, I'd be like, shut
I mean, he was doing the same shit. What was that leg? Who'd you do that leg video with? You have set like 8 or 7 plates per side, and you're like talking them through it.
Sadiq, yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
It
shit
turns out
pissed me
talking
off.
gives him power, though, so, like, when he's not talking, he's like, he just wilts. Like, oh, that makes sense. You're like the ultimate TikToker, just yapping gives you powers, and if you can't yap,
Yeah,
you
it's
just,
just
like, shut down robot style.
Mike,
No.
you know I
Ultra
was going to
impressive.
fuck you later already, right?
Say what?
You didn't have to say that. You know I was going to fuck you already later, right?
That was payment. That was a toll pass.
It's good to be the king.
So we were over there. We're going to do some cable 5 variant, obviously, what I'm known for. And Mike was like, dude, this guy looks like the only normal guy in the gym. So he was like in the middle of the set, so I was like, okay, it's a second cable. He's doing rope push down, so obviously he doesn't have the fucking bar attached, but he's using that as well. So I take it off the other side. He goes, hey, I'm using that, put that back on. I was like, oh shit, dude, like, chill the fuck out, bro. Like, the funny part of the story is we now have come over here, demonstrated this, yapped, and he's still over there doing that fucking 2-part circuit, which is blowing my mind. But
If you talk that shit, but he has bigger triceps than you.
watch him be just like a fucking triple black jet, like fucking black belt, like
Delta Force,
former fucking
SEAL.
fucking 20-year Navy
Stabs
SEAL.
you in the side of the throat.
Yeah, just don't even see it coming.
Fuck out of here.
Hey, I'm fucking being here. Hey, I'm existentially existent here. Whoa. Hey,
Hey, things they would never say.
hey, philosophically speaking, are any of us really here? Whoa, you're like, really, Jersey guy? I didn't expect that one. Hey, read some Ayn Rand, some Karl Popper. You fucking fuck out of here.
Oh shit, Schrodinger. That was my uncle.
I worked with a janitor once. His name was Immanuel Kant. Look him up.
So the reason I also demonstrate with you guys with like actual working weight, it's not to be an asshole. It's just
Oh, it's okay. We get it.
It's also I need it to actually show the
Yes,
submissive stretch.
100%.
It won't stretch me enough.
Yep. Hey, look at me. I'm so strong.
Look at me, full size.
Oh,
My
I'm
name's
also
Eric
I'm
Janicki,
also
yeah.
a fucking asshole.
Unrelated.
We weren't saying that.
Did you want to intro the exercise and talk about it, or did you want to? Or are you going to do the talk while lifting thing?
Maybe just to save time for the video.
Eric, let me get the fuck. I'm going to stop trying to kick dicks out of your mouth. You do your thing.
Okay, so next exercise, we're gonna have kind of a mid-chest bias, fly to upper. What you want to do is set these just lower than what would be shoulder height. And so what we want to see here, same thing. We want to drive as much stretch as possible. We're going to have a little bit of an elbow bend at the back. And the reason having a bench is nice is because now we don't have to worry about bracing, but also just the weight pulling us back into the stack. We get really planted here. And what that's going to do is just drive all the force right into our pecs. Slight elbow bend, scapular retract. Pull the shoulders down and back. And as I fly, I want to keep those shoulders down and then squeeze the straight arms in the middle. So I don't want to be here, it turned into a press. I want to be out here, big stretch, arch in the back, scapular retract, and then I want to push in and squeeze in the middle. Just enough that I can control the eccentric. So I don't want you to think, okay, I'm getting in the middle and I'm like holding for 4 seconds. I'm not like squeezing. It's just enough that I can start to control that negative. I want you to turn the hand slightly up to the ceiling. You see that? Because that's gonna get even more stretch. So that's kind of like, this would be kind of the starting, like tier 1. If you wanna fuck around and like get crazy with it, you can kind of get this back and then reach even farther back, drop down, and then come here. So it's kind of that same methodology of the decline fly of getting back here and then rotating up, and you'll see how much more stretch I get, and then consciously driving through the chest to that most contracted. I don't hold it there, just enough that I can start to control the eccentric load from the very middle of the rep. So that's the mistake people make, is they'll do this. I see this all the time, and then they catch it here. And then you already lost about 2/3 of the negative. So I'm fine with an explosive concentric. If you want to be here and then just grab it right from the middle, what I see too often is this. First and foremost this, but second most common is here, and then they let it drop and then they start to catch it here. You want to make sure that you're controlling that eccentric load. And you see how I straighten towards the middle, slight elbow bend in the back, turning the palms up just barely towards the ceiling, which is going to keep the emphasis in the chest, and then control that concentric, big squeeze out. And an intensifier you can use at the end of your set, instead of forcing reps like this and pushing over the shoulder, when you get to failure on your last set, what you can do is some partial rep failure reps here. Keep the shoulders down and back. That type of intensifier is not necessary. It's just something, if you get to a very high level, you can throw in. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you're gonna do it in the most stretched position and not in the most contracted position. Keep the emphasis in the chest. If you're already at failure, there's no fucking way you're gonna be able to get out here and do partials that where you're keeping the contraction in the chest. It's all gonna be front delt and bicep at that point. So come here, push here if you wanna add that intensifier. Yeah.
Oh, that feels so good.
Right? The only thing I've noticed about you when you get in the stretch position, I want you to start like getting a little bit more zen about it, because you see when I'm even doing those decline flies, and you see when he looks so relaxed. When I see you get in the stretch position, sometimes I see you almost like try to resist it even more. What I want to see is like almost that like relax into it and then like reload. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, but you could see even in that most stretch position, even your upper chest was so like on,
dude,
just because you're going so far back, and it's inevitable. You have to use your entirety of your chest.
Sure. Dude, this is awesome. One thing that comes to mind for me is it's funny and all to say like, oh, fucking just do the basics, and the basics are dope. And yeah, when there's 80 trillion people in the gym, you don't want to be a TikTok and asshole and take up a whole fucking cable, blah, blah, blah. But variation in exercises is a real thing. And from a biomechanics, sport physiology perspective, this is a fucking great exercise. And the basics are just like shit you learned back in the day with minimal equipment. There wasn't anything so magical or special about it. And so when you're trying to bifurcate movements into the fucking basics, bro, that fucking brothers use, fuck back in my day, and then you're trying to get that and go, the other exercises are like fancy TikToker, namby-pamby. There is not that distinction. It does not exist. Effective exercises are effective exercises. They can look trippy, they can look super simple, but this exercise is going to be more effective than lots of quote-unquote basics, and there's lots of basics that are equally or more effective than this.
But also, there's still the basics. Like, that was a decline fly.
Right.
If you wrote that in a program, you
rocket
just wrote decline fly, but then you watched Eric perform it, he finds a way to make the hardest position of every exercise harder. And that is what I love watching about your training. It's fucking insane and it's impressive. And every time that I'm in like that deep stretch position now, I try to channel my fucking inner Eric Janicki, legitimately.
Yeah, and what we're doing here, guys, is we're not giving you magical new movements that are categorically better than the others. We're giving you more options, more variation to get the job done. It's gonna psychologically feel dope because you're not doing the same old bullcrap anymore. It's gonna hit stuff from a slightly different angle. And here's the thing, everyone eventually settles on a core group of exercises, at least for a few years at a time, that they really, really love. And you just might not know that you have exercises that you really love because you've just never done them before. Like the lying bicep curl you and I did. It's like my favorite bicep exercise ever. I started doing it like 3 months ago. Where the hell was it my whole life? Well, if I had seen you on TikTok and you showed it to me 20 years ago, I'd have been like, ah, man. And I could have been like, man, that's just fucking lying down, man. You gotta stand up and do this. And if I ever tried it, I'd be like, oh my God, this is my jam. So try a bunch of these exercises, see which ones really, really fit for you and work for you and are new for you, keep them in the rotation, then get rid of them. There's no magic. They're just effective variants, and Eric's sharing a ton that are super, super awesome.
Exercise number 3. So if you guys want an insane upper chest pump, you can literally do this pretty much anywhere as long as you have 2, let's say dumbbells or something that you can elevate with even at home. This is a tremendous exercise just to get that same thing, using your body weight in order to try to basically maximize that stimulus by getting as much stretch as possible. What I do is actually place the hands a little higher, like you saw Mike, or you will see Mike, doing on his presses. You'll see him kind of, a lot of times he likes to be nice and up here, just to get a lot of stretch to the upper chest. I'm gonna set myself up in a similar way. I'm gonna elevate my feet. You don't have to start with this, but what this helps to do is kind of create an angle that's allow us to keep it as much in the upper chest as possible. And you wanna set it up so the dumbbells, when they're, if you were to draw a line across, or right across your upper chest. I actually wanna tuck the pelvis a little bit, so I don't wanna drop here, because then it basically turning it into a decline. So I'm actually gonna tuck up, tuck the elbows to about a 45, come down, push forward, get as much stretch as is comfortable for me, and then push basically up and back, and then right back into it. So I don't want to pause at the top of the rep. I want to get about 95% of the way up and then right back into it. So you can see, tuck the pelvis, crunch the core, get as much stretch in the upper chest as possible, and then push constantly. Also, I like to wrap my hands kind of on the inside of the dumbbells, and that kind of pushes my elbows into that nice comfortable 45-degree position without putting too much stress on my wrists. And as you get more and more hypermobile, you can push here. And then the last kind of like cheat code for getting more stretch, actually pushing forward at the bottom of the rep before coming up. So I'm gonna go down, get as much stretch as I can, push forward, back, and up.
What is the TikTok version of this? The deficit push-up is slept on.
Slept on.
And goated.
Goated.
Like a sleeping on a goat. He's like, "Wah!" You're like, oh, sorry, Mr. Goat. But it's an unreal movement. You need minimal equipment for it. And another cool thing is, like, if you're at the gym and all the benches are taken, which they are, inclines are taken, hey, I'll do dumbbells. No, you're not, because all the dumbbell benches are taken. You just get a few dumbbells and some kind of elevation over in the corner, and you do deficit push-ups till you're blue in the face. The thing is, like, until you get really, 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 really strong, you could do amazing work with these. And if it's your second or third exercise, you could still do amazing work with these. The big thing for me, another takeaway, is tucking those hips. If you can be a triangle at the bottom, it's gonna go all upper pec. If you start to sag your hips down, it's gonna turn into mid pec and then eventually low pec. It's a little bit annoying and difficult to keep your butt up, but really you want to get into that pike position and stay there, and then it's super, super upper chest. Phenomenal exercise, RP approved, the whole thing.
Beautiful push-up. That's the only way to do push-ups. Seriously.
People wonder why I'm winded on camera.
Honestly, it's impressive that you're not when you're talking half the time.
People are like, my most comments is like, you really gotta like, go to the doctor, bro.
Yeah, I get those all the time.
You got to keel over if you want to be in the grave by 40. I'm like,
Why are they saying that?
Because he breathes heavy.
please.
Oh, like you breathe heavy during hard exercise?
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Weird.
Strange
It's
times.
intense. Yeah.
Strange world we're living in.
Yeah, it's like nobody would say that if like Noah Lyles ran a 100 meter and he was like, oh, that was a tough race. You wouldn't be like, oh, you're gonna die at 40, bro.
Yeah. When you have a small dick and nothing going for you, you have to say mean things on the internet to big people. But notice in real life, nobody talking that shit.
And the funny thing is, if any of those people
No shit.
in the comments saw me here, they come up to me and be like, dude,
You're huge.
you look crazier in person, bro.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
Oh, I've had that literally happen. Yeah.
It's insane.
It's hilarious.
Or they wouldn't talk to you at all and just look down.
At the ground.
That's really common.
Look down and wouldn't be able to see their dick.
Yeah, but after I get back on the internet, I'm gonna fuck.
Thank you guys for letting me show you guys through. It was awesome. If you guys are not following Jared, Mike, the RP team as a whole, they have an amazing platform, community. They have an amazing diet app, but also a training app. So there's so many people to go around. Use my app, use their app, whatever is best for you. So love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.